Today, Dr. Phil, it's chaos. We don't have enough police. Right now, we should be at around 230, 240 for a population of 72,000 people. We're barely at 175. There's chaos at night. There's fires, there's shootings and stabbings. It's a dangerous area. Even city employees are being attacked.
I want to introduce y'all to a man who wouldn't even be sitting here today if it weren't for the police. He says he once feared the police until one talked him off the ledge, literally. He now dedicates his life to advocating for suicide prevention and law enforcement. So, Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for having me.
You had a life-changing experience with
Absolutely,
the police.
I did.
What happened?
March 11, 2005, I was overwhelmed. I had spent 22 years not dealing with my pain, lying about who I was. Born and raised in Oakland, California, never talked about mental health, never talked about anything that had anything to do about feelings, emotions, and I got overwhelmed that day. And I drove myself to the Golden Gate Bridge, and on that day, I literally got out there. The only thing that stopped me was that officer, who I never even know. At the time, I didn't even know he was an officer. I thought he was a human being. Later on, got to meet him 8 years later and found out he was an officer, and it changed my perspective of how I looked at law enforcement. I used to call them cops, now I call them law enforcement, because I realize they are human beings and they're flawed, and you know they make mistakes, but they're not trained. The key word of what he said, they're not trained for certain things. They're trained to handle, they're trained to supposedly handle situations, but they're not trained to handle how they feel about themselves. They're trying to figure out their own lives along with having this job that expects them not to be human. And I think that we have to understand their point of view too, now that I've been on both sides of it.
Right.
So how long did this stranger talk to you?
92 minutes.
Oh, specifically.
Yeah, 92 minutes.
And he got you to walk away.
Dr. Phil, could I just speak to that for a second with law enforcement? Because most police officers die because of suicide that are on duty. They don't die because they're hit by a car. They don't die because they were shot by a suspect. They take their own lives. And when you defund the police, you prevent them from having enough money to provide themselves with the mental health services they need.
I'm sorry, law
Exactly
enforcement
like it.
officers, we make so much money. We've got officers in Oakland that are making between $350,000 to $420,000 a year. And brother, I'm so glad you were sitting here and that was your experience. The facts are, however, that upwards of 50% of people that are murdered by law enforcement are in the middle of a mental health crisis. And when you intersect that with blackness or brownness, the numbers go incredibly more up. So
how are you going to solve a mental health crisis? Hold on, let me ask just one question.
You should send community like mental health
How are you
first.
going to, hold on a second. How are you going to address mental health by taking money away from police officers?
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.